Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. Excuse the totally outdated gender language, it's a very old ad. First question, who's in? Who's going to apply? Second question, who wrote the ad? Nobody? This? Dating app. That's right. I can't remember, was it Bumble or Hinge or what? This ad is said to have been placed in London newspapers by Irish polar explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton. With both the North and South Pole conquered, the one remaining polar challenge was to cross Antarctic on foot via the South Pole. Shackleton needed 26 crew to get it done. How many do you think applied? You saw the ad. How many do you think applied? Anybody? None? How many applied? 30. Here we go. 5,000. 5,000 people, male only, applied. Shackleton was charismatic, unorthodox, in many ways ahead of his time in terms of his humble leadership, as we will see. He hired for life outlook and attitude and trained for skill. One man he asked during the interview, "Can you sing?" And when the young man responded, "Well, can I hold a tune? Probably not. But can I join into a rowdy sing-along together with my mates? Absolutely." The man was hired on the spot. After Shackleton assembled his crew, he made relationship building, tender on people, his top leadership priority. He wanted to understand every man's strengths, weaknesses, and personal styles. Relationship building, core leadership responsibility, unheard of on other English ships in the 1910s, all top-down command control. Shackleton was tender on people, but he could also be tough on results. After they sailed across the Atlantic and arrived in Chile, the cook got terribly drunk one night and behaved totally inappropriately. Shackleton immediately knew the man was not fit for mission and fired him on the spot. But in his tender way, he found the cook another job on a ship that sailed back to England. The crew set off from Argentina and sailed south. They didn't know it, but there would be more pain, misery, and danger awaiting them than they could ever have imagined. Just 100 miles from reaching Antarctica, their ship, the Endurance, got stuck in the thickening pack ice. They were 1,000 miles from the closest human being. Nobody knew their whereabouts. And remember, this was well before fancy outer gear like down jackets and Cortex shells. They had no choice but to settle in for a long, miserable, dark winter. During the long 10 months that followed, Shackleton made keeping morale of his crew up his top leadership priority. He organized regular sing-alongs, poker nights, birthdays became elaborate celebration. It was forced socializing. Nobody was allowed to be by themselves in their bunk and be miserable. He even, I love that, organized soccer matches on the ice and dog sled races. To tear down hierarchy, fight boredom, and increase stimulation, he had every crew member cross-train on every other position on the ship. The scientists would help peel potatoes in the galley, the photographer would help with the sled dogs, and he himself would scrub and clean the ship. Every man received the same portions regardless of rank or position, unheard of on other English ships. In today's terms, we would say Shackleton tore down silos, drove engagement, built a strong team, drove trust. Because of this trust, every crew member knew it was safe to come to Shackleton. He was famous for being able to speak to and listen to anybody. He praised the messenger versus punished the messenger, made it safe for everybody to speak up and ask questions. In the process, built a fearless, a psychologically safe culture almost 100 years before the phrase was coined. After 10 long months, the pack ice started to shift and move. But instead of freeing the Endurance, the shifting and moving pack ice crushed the ship and the Endurance sank. Their only way to reach safety disappearing before their very eyes. The crew was stuck in the middle of Antarctica on floating ice with nothing more but 3 life rafts and a pile of gear. As the ice continued to crack, they would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night. There was a foot-wide gap under their tent. Shackleton dug deep and knew the only way to safety was to try and reach one of the small islands 200 miles away. During the 16 miserable long days and nights at sea, Shackleton changed destination 5 times because of changing weather conditions. When conditions changed, Shackleton had the humility and the self-awareness to say, I screwed that up, swiftly change course. After 16 days, they arrived on Elephant Island. For the first time in 16 months, they set foot on land, but there was nobody there to help them. The crew was in terrible condition, food was running low. Shackleton dug deep again and realized now the only way to safety was to try and reach the closest whaling station on St. George Island, 800 miles away. He grabbed his best life raft, 5 men. It was 800 miles across one of the most treacherous seas in the world with 100-foot waves the norm. In an open life raft, they had no maps, only the stars. Miraculously, after 3 long weeks, they made it. Do we have any sailors or boaters in the room? Show of hands. I'm speaking to you specifically, of course everybody else as well. To this day, this is considered the greatest feat of open water navigation we know of. But they landed on the wrong side of the island. To get to the other side of the island, where the whaling station was, they had to climb over 10,000 feet high glacier mountains. The manager of the whaling station on the other side of the island was a tough Norwegian whaler called Searle. Searle knew of Shackleton, but like the rest of the world, presumed him dead. When Shackleton and his men finally walked into the whaling station, knocked on Searle's door, he opened the door, took a step back. There was a long pause. He had a shocked look on his face. And he finally said, "Who the hell are you?" The man in the center stepped forward and in a quiet voice said, "My name is Shackleton." Searle, the tough Norwegian whaler, not exactly known for his display of emotions, turned around and broke down in tears. It took Shackleton another 4 months, 4 attempts, 4 ships to finally rescue the rest of his crew, who by then had been stuck in Antarctica for almost 2 years. Shackleton's mission clearly failed. Not only did he not cross Antarctica, he never even reached the continent. Yet he had the humility to recognize his failure. He could have somehow attempted to reach Antarctica on foot when they first got stuck. Instead, he put the safe return of his crew members over his own ambition. He reframed his failure from "I failed to cross or even reach Antarctica" to "I brought home everybody safe." And in the process, he failed successfully. Shackleton's voyage to this day is considered the greatest #1 survival story. And his leadership is widely admired, including a Harvard Business School case study on him, by the way. Why? Well ahead of his time, he applied himself to humble leadership. How? He led like a compass, he was tough on results, tender on people, and he championed a fearless culture. Quick personal anecdote before I wrap it here. I've admired Shackleton's leadership for a long time. So in 2001, the Seattle Maritime Museum organized an exhibition about Shackleton's voyage. I bought my father, this t-shirt, and it has the endurance on the front, and in the back it contrasts Shackleton's leadership to some other polar explorer. It reads, "For scientific discovery, give me Scott. For speed and efficiency of travel, give me Amundsen, a Norwegian explorer. But when disaster strikes and all hope is gone, get down on your knees and pray for Shackleton." That's, by the way, one of his crew members' quote. I gave this t-shirt to my dad as a gift, and he wore it on many of our outdoor adventures we did together. My dad passed away in 2010, and we had a very close bond. And ever since, I've been holding on to this t-shirt as a reminder of the strong bond we had and our mutual admiration for Sir Ernest Shackleton's radically humble leadership. Now, there is a good chance that none of us will ever try to cross Antarctica on foot. I'm a pretty adventurous guy, but this one I'm going to give a miss. The lesson remains though. If Shackleton could apply himself to humble leadership 110 years ago, then doing exactly that is within the reach of all of us and within the reach of all of our leaders. The future of leadership, the future of work is radical humility. And it starts right here with all of us in this room.